So yeah, hi. I'll well, as I was thinking about the talk for the Plone conference and having various discussion this years about Plone, I was more like, ooh, I'm maybe giving a yet talk and ranting about everything, but yeah, being on the board is sometimes uh, the thing that you're having a responsibility. But so this talk reflects more my personal points of view and does not reflect any opinion of the Plone board of directors or the whole community. But sometimes it's necessary that some people speak up, even if they are more involved. So what is my special thing? I do have a very independent position. I'm a public servant, so I'm paid by the state. Well, I have a lifetime job, so I can't be fired and everything, so I can do what I want. I'm an IT manager. Hey, fuck you, it's like that. Yeah. I'm an IT manager. I'm not in charge of the web content management system or the web systems at my university, and I don't earn money from selling or developing Zob or Plone anymore. I do have a computer science background, but I was always about one thing. It's not about a technology or a product. It's about getting the results, getting the things done. So I often will be asked which is the best content management system. Well, there's only one reasonable answer for that. It depends. It depends on what you're searching for, what's the thing you're looking for. Then the people sometimes ask me, but you're a Plone person. Don't you look into that? Well, yes, but I always say that's the good points, that's the bad points of all your decisions. If you're using Plone for a university, it's be the perfect match for you. If you're using it for your private blog platform, it's maybe oversized. So it always depends on what you're looking at. And well, the next question sometimes is if they have already heard about Zob and Plone isn't Zob and Plone already dead? Well, not yet. Zob is not dead. Well, the problem we always have is that the people think about something. And Stephen Hawking said it right. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge. If they think they know something, but they are not correct, it's more harmful than knowing them that they are not knowing anything. And it's the same with software. The most biggest problems in software are problems of misconceptions. So we do take the wrong assumptions. So it's, from my point of view, time for a critical self-analysis of Plone. So I often hear critics and complaints about Plone. Plone has a steep learning curve. It's over-complex. It has bad documentation, the structure, the completeness. It's not easy to understand. Yeah, there's issues with our development and release process. We have no regular releases at the moment. There are sometimes several months, up to 5, 6 months between a minor or a bug fix release. We are sometimes missing the installers for a longer time. The translations for 5 was missing how much? Month? Almost half a year or more? We do have regression bugs on a lot of the current releases. And where are the new awesome features? Yeah. But if you're looking into more a strategic point of view, a SWOT analysis is always a good thing. The problem is, Plone is not one thing. Plone is 3 things. Plone, the product, Plone the vendor, and the most awesome thing in it, Plone the community. Well, Plone the product, we all know it. The thing is, Plone is a content management system. Plone is not a web framework. So there are things about it. Plone has so many fantastic things. It's very secure, it's scalable, it's stable. And sometimes in things it's boring, it's accessible. It has Python on it, it has a Floss license. It's really available for everybody. We have weaknesses with our JavaScript toolset at the moment. Volto and Plone React and all the other stuffs, the REST API try to fix this. The current editor interface is not that good. Concurrent writes is still an issue on larger sites. The translations, the step learning curve. We have threads, so that it is very complex. We only have a very few limited set on good maintained add-ons. But we do have a lot of opportunities, and Plone always was an innovation driver, which could be a threat and an opportunity. The threat thing is, if you're driving the innovation, you're putting resources into something you're not sure that it works out in the first place. But you can't create the future without driving it. Some aspects that are very good in the product, I really like, and the most thing I like on Plone is that it is like a content integration framework. You can get anything integrated into Plone, and that's the strongest part from my point of view. I was really shameless. I copied a lot of slides from Timo. He did give a fantastic talk and always had a good point of view. So it's about scalability and maintainability. It's about security. It's about permissions, workflows, and transfers. So my slides maybe not that looking good, but well, we have infinity scalability. We have fantastic things in it. The Plone collection model is fantastic for an end user. They can easily query data. We have with EasyForm a fantastic form builder at the moment. We do have with the Plone rules engine an event system that is built into core and so powerful that normal users can do fantastic things with it. Content framework dexterity, the data schemas, creating content types through the web with all the specialties within. Round-trip engineering on that is a fantastic thing. The workflow engine is, which content management system in the open source world has the workflow engine built into core? WordPress didn't have anything really comparable. If there are add-ons, they're sometimes buggy, but they're not even capable of that, what is possible in Plone. Diazo, also a fantastic technology if you're doing server-side rendering, providing one consistent theming story. Even the through the web development story, it's always about one thing, and one most important thing from my point of view, and that was the original vision of Plone. It's about empowering users. And that's what we always should think about. If you're looking at Plone the vendor, yeah, we always have the strengths of looking for a continuity. Some of the things is what we're seeing from other open source communities. Typo3 is looking a lot into professional services, having a company behind it. IKEA for Drupal, Automatics for WordPress. It's always that you have one dominant vendor. That could be a good point to drive the product, but it also could be a harmful thing for the community. From my point of view, sometimes we have a developer-driven community. So it's more that the developers, we are looking into what is fun for us to work on. It's not what is the user needs to solve. And really, the most worst part we have is we are really not good at marketing. We can do technology-wise anything, but we could not market it. Sorry. I'm very often asked, how are content management systems selected? Because I'm seeing a lot of selection processes in universities, in governmental organizations, and so on. So giving the feedback to the community about that makes it always a thing to understand why a system like Plone sometimes is not selected. Well, most content management systems are selected based on following the herd. Which is the system that is most used in my context? So I take that. If anybody else uses it, what can we do wrong? Well, if you follow the herd, you're like a lemming. You're jumping off the cliff. Or there's a German thing that if you're following the herd, you only see asses. Assholes. Yeah. It's biased consulting a lot. If you're asking consulting firms, they're looking into what they get paid for. Or you're just buying the content management system because it is a side product of the design, the implementation or consultants provider. Or there are personal recommendations to the CEO because his son uses WordPress for his own blog. So WordPress is fantastic blogging, but it's not suitable for companies or universities. The other thing is the persons who decide which content management to use has shifted. It's not anymore the IT departments, the professionals knowing about good software. It's the communication, press and marketing departments, and they only look about one thing. How can I easily create content? And the thing they know is writing something. Writing a blog, what is the most obvious thing? WordPress. The thing is, the technical considerations matters less for them. But there are other problems we see later. So we do have things like Gartner, Forrester Wave, that sums up different systems. The problem is they're mostly just looking into commercial vendors, not the systems. And open source is mostly ignored. So the other thing we have is the floss phenomenon. Floss, or free software, is a fantastic thing, but as the GNU manifest stated, it's about free as in free speech, not as free in free beer. And the problem we have is that for commercial software, you pay a high license fee. If you would pay the same money for open source, you can pay full-time developers doing the work on giving something new to the product. But who is ready to pay money for software? That's the problem. Even the universities most often having their own developers, but not willing to pay any money. And that's a pity. There is, from my point of view, only a reasonable selection. It should be based on satisfied requirement, based on the user scenarios. So you should have user stories. It's about economics. It's about strategic considerations, if it matches with your systems. And, well, the other problem is web. Is it the content management system only? No, it's not anymore. So there are so many things we need to be integrated. So it's the digital assets management, the analytics software, the marketing and campaigning and everything. So as larger as your institution gets and using things, a small content management system is not fitting enough. So we should look into who are our competitors, the segments and the focus we work on. So who is our target audience? Well, if we're looking at the overall summary, who are out there in the market that are in some way big enough to really be sustainable as a content management systems, there is a lot into that. Plone originally was on the Real Story Group very highlighted. It was the only open source system that playing on 3 lanes. It was web content and experience management, enterprise collaboration and social software, and enterprise portals. We still have all the capabilities in Plone, and that makes Plone so unique. So where we can use it, we see that in Quave, we see that in Castle. There are so many possibilities that you can solve with Plone for a single website, only visible to the anonymous user. Plone is maybe even underrated. The problem is that's where the people are looking in sometimes. The other thing is we do have a capacity gap. So what we see is there are digital experience platforms. The platforms offers flexibility, but most institutions could not handle those flexibility or things. The other thing is that vendors promote their products and promise you that a system will do something. So then we often have a hyperbole gap so that they promise too much what is possible with the software. Well, if it's just a hyperbole gap with a positive capacity gap, it's not a problem. So you can involve. The other thing is, if you have systems like WordPress that says you can do the fantastic websites with it, but it has a negative capacity gap so that it does not fit into your requirements. You could not do all the things you need to do. Then that will harm your institution. And the other problem is we do have a huge variety in the skill set of our users, editors, administrators, integrators. That is also a problem. So platform and products are 2 opposite sides of the market. For a vendor, a platform is always better because it can target on a larger markets. But you always need a developer. The product is always better for the consumer because it solves their problems. So yeah, the Real Story Group has a fantastic thing on making it visual. So this is a logo landscape map where they see all the different relevant content management systems. Plone is placed in the mid-range platforms. You see in the upper range platforms, they are only commercial vendors. WordPress is in the mid-range products section. Joomla and ModX or Umbraco, which are also fantastic open source products that participate in the CMS Garden, are simple products. They do not solve anything, do not give you the flexibility to extend. They solve you one specific issue. So we do have a borderline between that. So between the platforms and the products. The thing is, all systems and vendors try to reach a larger audience. So they always involve to get or to become a platform, an enterprise, upper range platform. The other thing what we see is, from a mid-range products, it's changed to a lower-end platform and more. So the border moves to the right. At the same time, we see that on various platforms, they are forming distributions. They're putting it back to a product character, so making complex systems simpler. If we are looking at the current version of those marketplace, we see some shifts. So the relevant things is Akia and Drupal is viewed as different product or different vendors. Akia is the only one that those consultants see as an upper range system, which is weird from my perspective. From my point, if we're looking into that, what we have before, collaboration, platform, from my point of view, our competitor we compete directly with is SharePoint. We are the better alternative to SharePoint. So all the companies using SharePoint is a target audience we could target at perfectly and match the things at. WordPress and Joomla are still on the lower end, and they will not come up to the capabilities we have. And we do have a large variety of systems because one size does not fit all. And, well, it's not a game of CMS. It's not like the Game of Thrones, that one system killed the others. It's in the CMS garden that we work together perfectly. It's about focus. So we should remember it's about the users. And the users, for the users, it's one thing important, the content. The content is the king. And the problem we always see is that there is a discrepancy between provided informations and the information sought by the users. So it's more about enhancing the editors, because the editors provide those contents, but we do have a complexity dilemma. Content management systems need to be so powerful that the requirements are met. So the system's getting more and more complex as more complex are the requirements of the users. But the content management system should be as easy as possible to handle for the editor, so they can simply create content. And it's about complexity or simplicity. Both is not one side of the medal. If we look into the Gutenberg editor, for example, it's a good example of modern editing. Timo has already shown. It's only so a design and focus decision back to the block section. Because for larger institutions, it's the first function that you deactivate. Because corporate identities, corporate designs is an important thing. And the editors should focus on the content and not on the design. And they should not be allowed at all modifying the design of the site. CMS are boring. Well, a lot of technologies are boring. Brennan Rowe gave a fantastic notes about that at the Plone Conf in Boston. Boring should not be conflated with bad. It's not about bad. Boring that you get things done, and it's also the thing about managing content. Well, we have the third target audience, that are the developers. Developers working with technologies. We're having the hype cycle where systems involve in. And, well, content management system is not a hype technology anymore like in the late 90s, beginning of the 2000s. It's the boring stuff at the end now. We have a solid versions. So nobody's hyping about that. They are using it. We do have now the laggards that's switching from self-written sites or something to content management systems. So content managements are in the usage a lot. The problem is developers looking for fun. They want to do new things. And that's not the thing where such evolved systems are interested in them. At the moment, machine learning, deep learning is the hype, or blockchain. So yeah, the people like to work on that topic. Well, the problem we have is that people from outside sometimes have a point of view. And that is from 2008. The definition, what is Plone in the Urban Dictionary. To assign somebody a task knowing that it is a fraud with risk and may implode. To leave somebody holding the bag. So it's going to fail anyway. So Plone the project off to Jessica. Yeah. Sometimes it's weird what the people think about a system. And that's a reason, or that came from because people thought Plone is too complex, or got too complex. Well, and we as developers should remember one thing the fabulous Richard Feynman said. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you're the easiest person to fool. Because we are web developers or IT professionals, it's easy for us to do a lot with computers, but that's not the thing for others. If they're not aware, some people even fail restarting their computers correctly or shutting down something, making backups. They are not capable in writing HTML. Managing content in a website is something different. We do have the fantastic Zen of Python, which was written with SOAP and Plone in mind. We always said explicit is better than implicit and readability counts. But hey, if you look into the other parts of the things, there are also things that's about the users. Simple is better than complex. There should be one, and preferably only one obvious way to do it, and now is better than never. So the product should be ready by that. So that applies to developers and editors as well. And editors don't want or need the most fancy tools. They just want to build awesome websites. And remember, it's about empowering the users. So, coming to the community, we do have fantastic things. We do have a fantastic community mix. Very smart people. I always said Plone is the community where you find the smartest people and talk to them over a beer. They're welcoming you. The problem we get in, we are relatively small for today's technologies. If you're looking into JavaScript conferences and so on, there are several thousand people attending. Look at this conference. We are not 100 people anymore. It's sad. Our average age rises. We are a decreasing number, but we are still have the capabilities of attracting Google Summer of Code students. We do have a lot of innovation tokens because we are so many innovative and smart people in the community. Looking like people like Asko, David, Nathan, and all the others around. They have so many fantastic ideas. They can build up systems from scratch and so on. And that's awesome. So yeah. I think we still have the time, so can I start the video? No, I'm sorry. I did have the video from Brandon Rowe and maybe it still works. So I did have describing some things about the Python and the community.
This is so big, so exciting, has so many people behind it, that it winds up spinning off its own series of conferences or events. Some of those are remain general to the whole programming language, like the PyLadies, but others of them, like the Django series of conferences, become focused on a single tool. There are workplaces where they don't quite get that you're a Python programmer. You're the person who writes Django. You're the person who writes the website in Django. And on the one hand, when a new series of conferences spins up, that sometimes means we see some of those people less often. They're now busy and financially committing to other conferences and don't always make it back to PyCon as often, so it can be a sort of wistful event as a part of the community is seen less often. But it's a huge opportunity because of all of the people that then can show up at those conferences who we might never see here at PyCon. There are people that can't afford to send themselves to conferences, whose workplaces wouldn't understand why they want to come to a conference with a schedule like ours with so many different topics. But if you show them a conference where everything is Django, 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 that's the thing we wrote our website in. We'll pay for you to go to that conference. And so many people that aren't, the investment isn't in something abstract, Python, the programming language, but in some one concrete application, get the opportunity by the dozens, by the hundreds, to attend conferences that they wouldn't otherwise get the chance to. Notable examples are the DjangoCon series of conferences now around the world, the PyData conferences that NumFocus runs, now by the dozen a year, which attract many people who, again, the PyCon schedule would be too diluted of the things they're interested in to make it worth it, but a day or two of all data all the time, and they're there. The SciPy conferences and the other worldwide academic conferences centered around Python. Back before all of those, there was something called Plone. There was, before that, it was built atop a framework called Zope. And those of you who've been in the Python world a long time remember those groups spinning up as some of the very first events worldwide that still today go on worldwide, focused not on Python the language, but on one particular application that becomes so big and gets so much momentum that it becomes a whole parallel community to ours.
Yeah, well, and if we're looking into the things, we become a parallel community. But what we have also seen is that we're winding up the Python communities in the local spaces. A lot of the organizers of the local Python user groups worldwide are Plone developers. Python PyLadies events are run by Plone developers and so on. And there's, we do have the Python web tracks, parallel tracks for related technologies at the Plone conferences since 2011 or something like that. And that's awesome. So we are driving the Python community still in some way. And the next, well, the fabulous Paul Everett introduced Jim Fulton. Is the video running? No. Also said it. We do have so many innovation tokens still, and we have so many technologies that are still more than a decade ahead of several other communities that we can work on. And there is so much power we have in our product, in our community, and we should be proud of it. And there are so many things, so many conferences around that we could be proud of. We have, it's now, yeah, it's a large conference set, it's a lot of things where we share, and there is a good, fantastic community. I really, really like those images from the Arnhem conference. There's a quote over it, and that also reflects on the Plone and the open source community. It's written in Dutch, yeah. De meeste mensen zwijgen in enkelen staat en dat. It's meaning most people stay silent, only a few act. It's about the history of the city of Arnhem in the Second World War, the resistance against the German invaders and everything. But it's the same on using software today. There are only a few people that are capable of developing, getting our community, our society into the future by providing things. We all, attending the conferences, acting, we are moving our society forward by providing something good. Yeah. And we do have fantastic things. Plone is more than 15 years old. Plone will be next year 18. So it would be allowed to vote. In Europe, it would be allowed to drink, to drive, and everything. So yeah, it's a fantastic thing that a system lives that long. And it's a fantastic community. And I've talked with Chrissy, and it's, well, some of the smartest people on earth. And it's not that you get a handshake, you get a hug from them. And that's the fantastic thing. I've seen so many other awesome developers that are in some way assholes, that do have those rockstar appearance. They don't talk to you. Have you ever seen someone in the Plone community that we accept acting like a rockstar? No, we all. And that's the fantastic thing, that Alex and Alan has formed the community around. There are no rockstars, there is community. We're speaking with each other, and there's the Pac-Man rule. Always be open to new ones. There's a lot of in the problems I've said before with the conferences. This is the 16th conference. Well, we are having less than 70 tickets sold for this conference, which is bad. And we do have the problem of 2013 again. There was no proposal for a Plone conference next year. Well, you know, the thing about the Plone Foundation is, and the Plone Board of Directors, that we are stewards, so we're taking care of that. There will be a conference next year, and we are working on it to get it announced tomorrow. Today, sorry, yeah, living in past times. Well, we'll also talk about the things I think are important, and it's the thing that we have 3 different categories on things we have to work on. It's the necessary things, it's the important things, and it's the fun things. We do have important things, and the trick is to fix the problem you have, not the problem you want to. And from my point of view, the most necessary thing was that Python 2 will end on January the 1st, 2000. If we not have Plone on Python 3 next year in the beginning, there is no time to adopt and to switch over. So that would be the end of the product. So that was the most necessary thing for the past few years. And you have seen yesterday's talk from Philip. We're done. David will give a fantastic talk how you can adapt all your software to get it on Python 3. We have worked a lot. We have started in Brazil 2013 to discuss it. It was a long journey, but we could be proud that we, with such a large system, was able to go that way. And remember, it's about empowering users. So there are other things, the important things. And from my point of view, it's always about user experience and about a simplified user interface so that the people can handle the complex tasks they are used to work on with Plone. Plone React or Volto is one of the things to do that, and it's a good way. And as Jean Kelly said it, 2006, it's all about rapid turnaround. You need to be quick to involve the user interface and get it better. Guillotina, from my point of view, was a mistake for the community. Why? Because so many fantastic people in the community work on a product that did not help Plone itself. So we have resources shift to another side project that we actually need for the Plone community. Well, it's one point of view, because Guillotina is solving a specific problem of a specific use case. So for them, it's an important or a necessary task. For the whole community, it could be different point of views. But hey, it's like telling a programmer there's already a library to do X. It's like telling a songwriter there's already a song about love. They don't care. They want to do something that makes fun. But Guillotina can never be a replacement for soap and Plone because it is impossible to rebuild a complex system from scratch. It is impossible. And if you think it's simple, you have misunderstood the problem. But we should go back to that where we come from with the Plone community. And the best way to predict the future is to create it. That's what we should do. And I think the best thing about the community is the community. And one person said it the best way. Huh? Where's the video? So, well, I could not let Lawrence say it by himself, but there was the video from Sorrento 2015. You can take the man out of Plone, but you could not take the Plone out of the man. And that's what it is about. We do have a fantastic community that has shaped by the product, by the ideas, and that's it. And we are not done yet. Plone is still alive and will continue, and there will be a pleasant future. There will come more. Thank you.
We are running out of time, but if there is some questions. Okay. Thank you, Alexander, sorry.